So we're drilling into the back of the handle scales right now through this hole, and what this is going to do is it's going to let epoxy build up and create a pin that goes through the tang itself and embeds into the backside of the antler part of the scales. So we're drilling through the vulcanized paper liner and into the antler, so that creates almost like an epoxy pin that's hidden, and it helps bond the antler to everything, as opposed to just the little bit of epoxy that is holding that antler in between the wood and on the vulcanized paper liner. So just a little something to make sure we got a better mechanical bond. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to mix our epoxy. This is just 5-minute epoxy by JV Weld, and you want to make sure this stuff gets mixed very well, because if you don't, you will have a horrible bond. Now when it comes time to put the epoxy on here, we're going to start off by making sure that we get epoxy down into those little pinholes that we drilled, so that we make sure that they are full and that they are actually doing the desired thing that we made them for. And then we're going to go ahead and just start spreading this epoxy and doing a nice thin coat all the way across the scale itself. And one of the things that I always suggest doing is going through and put your epoxy on everything that you want epoxied before you start putting these together, because it's going to make your life a lot easier. You're not going to be trying to put epoxy around pins and all that stuff. All you got to do is just put it on there and put everything together. It makes your life a lot easier. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about in this, I didn't do an intro, so there's actually a channel that I wanted to give a shout out to on this video, and that is a local guy to me. He's a local knife maker, makes absolute beautiful knives. His name is Chad Kennedy, and he's got a YouTube channel that he just started. Well, he started it a little while back, but he's going to start posting on it now. So it's Chad Kennedy Knives. I'm going to leave a link for it in the description, so y'all should definitely go check that out. He is got a little video series where he's making this awesome, crazy looking sword out of just ridiculous Damascus. He makes a lot of beautiful knives, so if y'all want to go check out his stuff, just look up Chad Kennedy Knives on Facebook. I'm going to leave a link for his Facebook page as well. Y'all are going to see some beautiful stuff, but go give him a little subscribe and check out some of his videos. Now we're going to go ahead and get the front of this cleaned off with acetone and start shaping these bad boys. Now, one of the things to know on this is I'm not going to be able to keep all of that antler texture, because if I did, I would have very wide handle scales, and the ergonomics would not be right on this knife. And if this was just a wall hanger, it'd have been fine, leaving all of that, but I make knives that are going to be used, not knives that are going to be put on display. Now, if the people that own them decide to put them on display, that's fine, but that's not how I make them. So what we're going to do at first is just focus on getting those diamond wood areas ground down, and then we'll go ahead and start shaping the scales. What I wanted to do is get it to where everything was pretty much the same width and shape, so that I can then shape all of this as one scale. Makes it a little bit easier and lets your mind kind of wrap around what you're doing. Now, I did a taper all the way from the back to the front, so that the area where your index finger is going to be is a little bit thinner, and it's going to help you index the knife. And I felt like it was giving it a good effect. And at first I was going to try and keep a little bit of the antler design towards the back of the knife, but then it just got to where it was still a little bit too big, and I needed to narrow it down a little bit. But one of the things that I did do was I rounded the butt of the knife and made it to where you could easily see all of the layers going around the butt there, and it left a really cool effect. But it was just trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this knife comfortable and keep it looking cool? And I just slowly took more and more and more antler away until I was happy with the overall shape and ergonomics of it. But you're going to see here, I'm just going to keep shaping it until it feels comfortable in the hand, and then we'll move on to the next step. And if you're wondering what belt I'm using right here, this is a 36 grit ceramic belt that has been used. So it's not super aggressive, but it's aggressive enough to not burn the wood or the antler. You don't want to use a very high grit on stuff like this because you will burn these materials. And what I've been doing right here, that is the part where I've been slowly taking more and more off to get it down to the shape that it needed to be for comfort and ergonomics. Now we're going to go ahead and use an 80 grit drum on my oscillating spindle sander and get in here and start refining all of the grinding lines. Basically what we do is we get rid of any of the more jagged waves in there, and then the deep grinding lines that have been ground into it from that 36 grit belt, so that when we start hand sanding we have way less work to do. And this helps us really get into the finger choil area so that we make sure that it's nice and smooth and that it feels comfortable in your hand and you don't have any hot spots. I will tell you that you want to make sure that you're constantly moving on this, because if you don't, a spindle sander like this or a small wheel attachment, those things will really eat into the material that you're working on, both the steel and the wood material, and leave an indentation that you'll have to sand out and work out, and it just causes more work later. So just make sure you're constantly moving whenever you're using something that's this small that has a kind of aggressive grit on it. Now when it comes to hand sanding, we are going to use 220 grit, 320 grit, 500 grit, and that is it. There's no need to go above the 500 grit. I was gonna go to all the way up to 1,000 grit, but I did the 500 grit and did a test buff, and it buffed super nice. So I went ahead and just finished with the 500 grit. And with this, it actually sands amazingly well. I really like working with the antler whenever it comes time to hand sanding. Smells not so great. We're using a white compound with this, and it starts putting a real good gloss all the way around this. So we're going to go ahead, buff the whole entire handle, and just make everything pop. And with this knife, it's very sharp right now because I did almost a zero edge. So you got to be really careful whenever you're using a rotary thing like this and using it to buff something that has a sharp edge. Now, because the edge was already so fine, all I needed to do was use an 800 grit belt on my 1x30 and set the edge nice and beautifully. It does not have a large secondary bevel. It's a very small secondary bevel, and I really like how this turned out, and it is absolutely sharp. Once we got a nice burr with that 800 grit belt, we went straight to the leather stropping belt and let it take off any excess burr to leave that nice razor sharp edge. Alright guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up here with a little bit of this. So what do y'all think about that awesome polished edge with the 10 series on the outer layer? So we've got 15 and 20 all on the center layer, 1080 on the outer layer. A little bit different than what everybody does, and I really like the polished edge with the contrast there. I mean, that is just really cool. I'm super excited about that part. And then I'm also really excited about these scales. I mean, check this out. We got our diamond wood, our black micarta pins, and then our awesome antler on the center here. Now, we did take a lot of the texture off, but I really like this two-tone tint that we have here on both sides. That is really cool. And it's got a nice shape to the handle. I like that there's a whole bunch of symmetry going on all the way around the fronts and the back. I just really like the way that that turned out. And it is very comfortable in the hand. You put your thumb all the way up in that little notch right there and just get a good grip on that. And that finish. Love the way this is turning out. Hopefully y'all are too. If y'all do, let me know in the comment section. Now, let's give it a little, cut and test here. Some nice thick leather. And then it's sharp. Y'all tell me what y'all think about that whole entire setup right there. Guys, this was an awesome way to end the year and start the new year. Of course, when this video comes out, it will be New Year, but I'm finishing this on New Year's Eve. Guys, I really want to know what y'all think about this, and I want to know what y'all's favorite part of the year was, what your favorite video was, your favorite thing that you learned. I would love to hear about those in the comment section. Let me hear it. Guys, again, y'all should definitely go check out Chad Kennedy's channel. That's in the description below. Go check it out. Give him some love. I think you're going to like the video that he did where he made the sword, so go ahead and do that. Guys, thank y'all for coming by. If y'all would, give this video a thumbs up, share this video or one of my other videos, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Do that. Turn on the notification bell so you get notified of all the crazy stuff that we're going to have coming up in this next year, because there's a ton of it.
And guys, thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for spending your time with me. Thank y'all for spending this awesome year with me. Y'all have an amazing day. Stay safe. I'll catch y'all next time.